Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India. Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste. Welcome to the fifth session of our course Yoga and Positive Psychology for Managing Career and Life. We started our discussion in the last session about looking at yoga and the yogic tradition from the lens of positive psychology. So, we will continue this discussion. A quick recap of the last session is that we started our conversation on the different aspects of the positivity and human potential in yogic traditions. So, we talked about holistic life goals, diverse pathways, positive behavior, positive characteristics in the last session, where we discussed the positive strengths described in the yogic tradition in the form of Daivi Sampada. In today's session, we are going to look at positive events and positive institutions. So, in the last session, we used this slide while describing the positive behavior, and in this slide you see a figure of a human body with the 100 heads of snake, so 100 hoods. In our tradition it is called Sheshanag. In this tradition, it is believed that nag or snakes are the highly receptive animals or organism in the nature, and Patanjali is supposed to have the sensibility and sensitivity and ability to perceive things and intercept things which is equivalent to 100 snakes. So, that is why his head is represented with the Sheshanag. Coming back to our discussion in the today's session, that is about positive events. We describe two things as positive events mentioned in the yogic tradition. Two of these events are sanskar and yajna. Sanskar, many of you must have heard about 16 sanskars, different rituals, different processes being followed at different stages of human life. By definition, sanskar is understood as Atma Shariranya Tarinishta Atishay Vishesha Sanskara, a special virtue or quality that is connected with body or mind is called sanskar. So, if we look at the different sanskars are related to different stages of life. So, Garbhadhan sanskar is conducted before the conception of a life. Upanayan sanskar is conducted in the beginning of education and making the person aware of him or her being the responsible member of the society and family. So, like these different sanskars are offered at different stages of life cycle, and these sanskars have very deep psychological and social meaning along with the spiritual sense. So, we are going to discuss these as positive events. So, another very important, or rather you can say pervasive category of positive events is in the yogic tradition called yajna. Yajna is derived from the root word yaj, that means Deva Puja Sangha Gati Karan Daneshu, or that means it includes worship of deities, unity or charity. So, all these aspects are covered in different types of yajnas. Let us look at sanskar in little more detail. This is also an overview. We are going to have a complete session on the sanskar, where we will look at the positive psychology and the yogic insights about the managing different stages of human life. So, we are going to have more detailed discussion. This session is just to give the overview of the sanskar positive events, yajna as positive event, and then positive institutions as family or education systems or positive governance. So, this classification of the 16 sanskar is given by Gautama, and that is most popular. However, there are some texts which describe much larger number of sanskars as well. For example, one text, traditional text, describes 42 sanskars, another text describes 30 sanskars. You can know more about it on the website where all these notes are uploaded, called dharmawiki.org. So, in these sanskars, the prenatal sanskars are there. There are some sanskars conducted at the time of childhood. Then there is a group of sanskar which are related to education. Then very important sanskar called marriage or vivaha sanskar, that is conducted when person completes the education and enters into the life of householder. And then the last sanskar is called that Antyeshti sanskar. Garbhadhan sanskar is conducted at the time of conception. Even before the conception, it is conducted for the Varavadhu or conducted for the couple who are going to conceive a child. There is another sanskar which is conducted in the 3rd to 6th month of pregnancy, that is called Pumsavan sanskar. Then the Simantonayan sanskar is conducted before the birth of the child. At the time of the birth, Jatakaram is conducted. After some time, Namakaran is conducted, where name is given to the child. Nishkraman is the occasion of taking child out under the sun, and that is generally conducted after 3 or 4 months of the birth. Annaprashan is generally done in the 6th month of the birth of the child, where first feeding is offered. Chudakaran sanskar is about shaving of head, that is a most important ritual. But there are quite a few other things which go along with the main ritual. Piercing of earlobes is another sanskar, Karnaved sanskar it is called, and that is related to, now it is connected to the health benefits as well as the social benefits. That whole connection is described in a book, the reference of which will come in the later slide. Then there are some educational sanskars. So, these educational sanskars are about Vidyaram, that is the beginning of the learning process. Upanayan, that is sacred thread ceremony, that is the most prominent ritual of that sanskar, and Upanayan is related to that stage of life of the learner, of a child who is entering in the home of the teacher, which used to be called Gurukul. Vedarambha sanskar is beginning of the Vedic study. Keshant sanskar is done in the during the education period. Samavartan sanskar is conducted at the end of education. So, it is like a convocation, and all these mantras are given, and in these mantras we come to know what is the worldview being prescribed in this process of sanskar. We also come to know that what is how the expectation from the child is conveyed through different rituals and different recitations. Vivah is marriage, that is Vivaha sanskar, and last one is Antyeshti sanskar. So, if you see, yogic tradition follows all these sanskars, and through these sanskars they aim manage the life. Through these processes, it is aimed to make a person a responsible member of the family, society, community and country. If we look at all these sanskars, these are related to 4 stages of life. Most of you must be aware that in the yogic tradition, prescribed in all the Indian traditions as well, we come across this notion of classifying the stages of life, very broad classification of stages of life. There are 4 stages of life as being conceived: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyas. Brahmacharya is the time of studies, preparing our mind and body to be the valued member of the community and society. Grahastha is the life of householder. Householder's life is responsible for taking care of all other sanskars, because that is the stage where artha, which is the very important, which is one of the 4 purusharthas which we discussed in the last session, artha is mostly created and circulated through the grahastha ashram in the life of a householder, where they aim at raising family and also taking care of the society and prosperity of the society. Third stage in life is called vanaprastha. Vanaprastha literally means going to the forest. That symbolically means delegating the responsibility and starting to delegate the responsibility of the household to the kids, giving the responsibility of the ashrams to the younger householders, giving responsibilities of different types to the younger people. So, that is the third stage. This stage is considered to be active in the society. This is about taking the role of a person who is not only performing duties, but he is or she is also preparing the next generation to perform the duties in the best possible ways. So, that element of dedication, delegation, contributing to society, contributing to the larger system for the benefit and development of its own, not for the personal benefit alone or not only for the benefit of the family. These are some of the characteristics of vanaprastha. Sannyas is the samnyas, that means equality and equanimity in the perception. That means moving beyond the likes and dislikes and dedicating ourselves to the last objective of the life, which is called moksha. Moksha, we discussed in the last session, that is described or explained in different languages in the different types of yogic tradition. So, Bhakti Yoga described moksha in certain way, Karma Yoga describes moksha in certain way, Jnana Yoga also describes moksha in certain way, but ultimately the objective of sannyas ashram is to make more concerted and focused effort towards the 4th objective or 4th purushartha of life. If we look at sanskar, the 16 sanskar, the 16 sanskars, these are primarily aligned to the different stages of life, and these sanskars are primarily focused on brahmacharya and grahastha. There are very few sanskars supposed to be conducted for vanaprasthi or sannyasi. Why so? Because by nature, meaning of sanskar is refinement or making things sophisticated. This process is naturally required in the childhood and when person is young. So, if you look at sanskars, they start from the beginning, and beginning meaning even before the conception the sanskars process start. So, we can take few examples and the detailed discussion, as I said, will be conducted in a session which is primarily focused only on the sanskars as a positive event for managing different stages of life. So, Garbhadhan Sanskar, this is performed at the proper time when couple are physically fit and in healthy condition, when they knew each other's heart and had intense desire for possessing a child. So, when couple is psychologically and physically ready to conceive a child, that is the time Garbhadhan Sanskar is conducted. Their whole thought was to concert it towards the art of procreation, and pure and congenial atmosphere was produced. So, if we look at the mantras and the rituals, they are aiming at making the thoughts and mind clear and creating a congenial atmosphere, and that is done through different hymns, different sacrifices. After Churakaran or tonsure, when child grew into a boy, his duties are prescribed and his responsibilities are explained before him, and that is done without encumbering his mind and body with book knowledge and school discipline. So, the Churakaran Sanskar makes child ready to take up the larger responsibility, make the child aware that he or she is not only the child of his or her parents. So, in this stage, child is made more conscious about his role in the family. So, Upanayan and other educational sanskars are formed the great cultural furnace of the emotions, desires and will of the boy. So, this description of sanskar is given in an extensive thesis of Dr. Rajbali Pandey. So, this thesis is based on the research of Dr. Rajbali Pandey, submitted in the late 40s, and he describes that Upanayan and other sanskars form the great cultural furnace where emotions, desires and will of the boy were melted and shaped, and he was prepared for an austere but a rich and cultured life. So, all the education related sanskars are making the child's mind and body ready to be the valued member of society. Then comes Vivaha Sanskar. Vivaha was the code of eugenics. That is what described in the Rajbali Pandey ji's book, and the nuptial ceremony about the life of a married couple. So, Vivaha Sanskar was a code of eugenics, meaning a preparation of the healthy progeny, and it was also a nuptial ceremony where they make the psychological contract about living together, enjoying things together, and who will lead in what kind of matters in the married life. The various sacrifices, rituals and vows are prescribed for a householder. They are introduced to remove selfishness, clinging to one's individuality, and make the couple, both the members of the couple, to realize that he or she is part and parcel of the whole community. So, if we look the rituals in detail, they are about making each others aware of each other's individuality and making them willing to sacrifice the individuality, making them more open to the likes and dislikes, and also making them open to plan their life, which can take care of all three other ashrams. So, Grahasthashram, which has to take care of the Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha and Sannyas, the whole societal arthic activities, the transactional activities, economic activities are all carried out by the householder. So, preparing the new householders, preparing the couple who is entering into the marriage life for this responsibility. So, sanskars are the positive events where, along with fun and frolic, a positive message is given. That message is given in a very joyful way, and that is also an occasion where whole society is participating in the process. So, as an overview, sanskars have various psychosocial roles. Sanskars are self-expression, they are cultural and social integration mechanism, they have the moral purpose and they also have a spiritual purpose. The first point is sanskars as self-expression. That means householders perform the sanskar to express their own joy, the felicitations and even sorrow at the various events of life in the shape of decoration, music, feast present, different rituals. These are expressions of all kinds of emotions, maybe emotions of joy when child is born and or emotions of grief when antyeshti sanskar is done, when a family member dies. So, in all aspects sanskars are mechanism and ways of self expression. These sanskars have cultural and social integration function as well, because each sanskar had the rituals which involves all sections of society. So, for example, marriage or vivah sanskar cannot be completed without the help of barbers or goldsmith or the ironsmith. Similarly, the Namakaran sanskar cannot be completed without the role of a barber or washerman. So, like these different sections of society had different roles in most of the sanskars, and this provides a mechanism of the integration of the different sections of the society. This also provides the identity to the different sections, and this conveys the message that in the cycle of life all the sections of society are important and inevitable. Sanskars, as I briefly mentioned before, also have moral purpose. So, Gautama, after enumerating 40 sanskars, I mentioned that Gautama's classification also includes very extensive 40 sanskars. After enumerating all these, the hymn uttered by Gautama, meaning 8 good qualities of soul. Those qualities as mercy, forbearance, freedom from envy, purity, calmness, right behavior and freedom from greed and covetousness. And Angira also mentions in his text that if all sanskars are done and these 8 qualities are not inculcated, then there is no value or meaning of these sanskars. However, if sanskars are not conducted and if somehow these 8 qualities are developed in the human being, that is better than having and that is better than getting conducted all the sanskars. So, there is a consciousness that behind the ritual there is a moral purpose, and conducting certain rituals as described in the different sanskar processes, ultimately the purpose is to make a better human life, more contributing, more harmonious, harmonious within as well as harmonious without, harmonious with the externality, and these messages are conveyed in the sanskars. Sanskars also have spiritual purpose. It was the business of sanskar to make body a valuable possessions. In most of the sanskars, body, human body is well nourished, it is decorated, it is washed, and body is conceived as a vehicle for the transpersonal experiences and realizations. So, body is not a thing to be discarded. That message is conveyed very strongly in the sanskaric tradition, in the sanskars, but it is considered a holy thing to be sanctified, so that it might be fitting instrument of the spiritual intelligence embodied in it. So, in all the rituals we come to know about certain hymns which keep conveying the ideas of adhyatmic purpose or spiritual purpose also behind the sanskars. And it was the way in which active life of the world was reconciled with the spiritual realization. So, if you look at these sanskars, we see some of the very clear characteristics which are the characteristics of yogic tradition as well. Like yogic tradition, which has body a very important instrument, body is sanctified in all the sanskars. Even in the Anteshti, body is sanctified. Number 2, as yoga talks about the positive emotions, yoga, when we look at the Ashtanga yoga, includes positive emotions, positive behaviors and spiritual purpose. In the same way, all sanskars are imbued with positive emotion, positive purpose and ultimately directed towards spiritual goals of life. But in this process, they take care of all 4 purusharthas, which are dharma, meaning harmonious life or righteousness expressed in the righteousness, artha, which is more like physical possessions or transactions, kama, which is more psychological or sensuous pleasure, and moksha, which is spiritual enlightenment. In all 16 sanskars, all 4 aspects are taken care of, and that is the reflection of the integral nature of yogic tradition. So, now we will look at yajna as the positive event. Yajna is described in a very essential manner by Katyayana Shautra Sutra as that involves dravyam, devata, tyaga. Now, we will look at yajna as positive event. A simple definition of yajna given in the Katyayana Sutra is yagyam vyakhyaasyamah dravyam devata tyagah. Yajna is composed of 3 elements. Dravya, meaning obligatory material which is to be offered, devata, to whom it is offered, that is loosely called deity, and tyaga, the process of giving away, and giving away which you have rightfully earned, offering that, giving away that is tyaga. So, yajnas are conducted for various purposes related to the life goals, family goals or more social goals. For the householders, 5 types of yajnas are prescribed. Panchva ete mahayajna satati pratayante satati santisthante. 5 types of yajna or 5 yajnas have to be observed completely and regularly. Satati means regularly. What are those 5 yajnas? Deva yajna, Prithya yajna, Bhuta yajna, Manushya yajna, Brahma yajna, iti iti. That means these 5 types of yajnas have to be performed by all the householders every day. Pitra yajna is about taking care of your parents or forefathers. Rishi yajna is about taking care, having reverence and taking forward the knowledge tradition, that is called Rishi yajna. Dev yajna have to be performed for the blessings of the powers which govern the nature, which govern the natural powers, fire, water, sunlight. So, these are considered to be governed by higher powers, performing yajnas for the blessings of all these higher powers. Bhuta yajna is taking care of all the animate, that is plants, animals as well as inanimates, which are called Panchabhutas in the day to day life. So, Bhuta yajna is actually taking care of all the nature around us, and Manushya yajna is towards fellow human being helpful for the fellow human beings, and in this way supporting the society. So, all these 5 yajnas are considered most essential yajnas of the householders. If we look at these 5 yajnas, they reflect 2 things very prominently, and that is why we can very clearly see these being positive events. These two elements of yajnas are a systemic understanding of reality and gratitude. Systemic understanding of reality meaning the yajnas are conceived, and particularly these 5 yajnas are conceived based on a very basic tenet that this life form or individual life form is sustained by and nourished by all other life forms. In the Bauddhic tradition, it is called pratitya samupadyata, constant co-arising. This is because that is. So, dependence of any life form or my life form on all other life forms, family is dependent. So, this body is dependent on family, family is dependent on community, community is dependent on a larger society is dependent on even larger society, and in this way reality is nothing, life is nothing but a graded expressions of the more and more complexity. So, lower form can be sustained only based on the higher forms. So, that systemic understanding of reality is reflected in yoga. Secondly, there is a sense of gratitude, gratitude towards parents, teachers, higher powers, all fellow beings and whole of nature. Gratitude is considered one of the most important factors in the positive psychology in current times, and in the form of yajna we see very simple rituals which are expression of those gratitudes. Third aspect of yajna, particularly reflected in the fifth the pancha yajna, is that the concept of systemic understanding of reality and gratitude are integrated with the normal course of action. So, they are integrated with the day to day activities of life. So, there are rituals like when food grain is harvested, some part is left for the birds. When food grain is processed, some part is given to the cow or dog or crow, some part is given to the ants. Like these, at all stages of the preparation of food, there is element of sacrifice for different life forms. So, sacrifice is essential nature of yajna. Literally speaking, yajna means selfless sacrifice for the noble purpose. Anything which is done for the higher purpose, anything which is done for the larger system is called yajna. And when this is performed, it is not doing any favor, it has to be done because that is the only mechanism of life. If we look at plants, rivers, birds, and if we look at their contribution in the ecosystem, they naturally contributed much more than what they get from the nature, but their contribution is done as per the part of the natural programming. They do not have to think much about how they do or do not contribute. They are natural part of the system, and that contribution is naturally done. Human beings have the discriminatory power. So, they have to consciously put in effort to contribute towards society and contribute towards the larger ecosystem. So, because of the discriminatory power, human beings have more responsibility. Responsibility is connected to the consciousness, because consciousness is must to make a discrimination, distinction, and for enhancing the consciousness we require sanskars and yajna. So, if we look at the whole life programming, it is deeply arising from the sense of responsibility of human being towards larger social and natural environment. Inherent in the sense of responsibility is also recognition of human power to be a destructive force or force for disturbance in the nature. So, arising from the sense of responsibility, we see in the yogic tradition many sanskars being identified, which are systematic intervention to make a person a responsible member of the society and responsible member of the whole ecosystem. Yajna is a process of delivering that responsibility. Yajna is the process of performing that responsibility in a day-to-day activities. That's why yajna and sanskars are clubbed as positive events. Another aspect of the yogic tradition, when we look at the yogic tradition from the positive psychology angle, are positive institutions. Family and educational institutions are the two examples which we are going to discuss in this section. Family is not only a biological unit in the yogic tradition. It has the role of psycho-social development, and that is conducted through sanskars. We just looked at that. Family has a role for societal sustenance. That's why it is considered grahastha ashram, remaining at home. Ashram, which is about remaining at home, established at home. Sthit, grahastha is graha, sthit, established at home, anchored at home. So, grahastha ashram has the responsibility for the societal sustenance, because all three ashrams, whether brahmacharya, vanaprastha and sannyas, they take resources from the grahastha ashram. Family is considered as a spiritual pursuit as well, because human life is considered to have 5 rinas or debts. Debts of rishis, because they provide all the knowledge, that includes language which we are using. Debt of the higher natural powers, because they govern the water, fire, sunlight, so on and so forth. Debt of the parents and forefathers, because they built the family and they nurtured us. Debt of all the natural elements, animate and inanimate. So, that is called bhutarin. And manushyarin, because we are part of the community and we cannot sustain our life without other human beings. So, human life is considered to be having the rinas or debts of all these 5 types. The 5 yajnas or panch mahayajnas we just looked at in the previous slide are the ways to repay the debt, and family is considered as a station or a mechanism through which these 5 rinas or debts can be repaid, and that is why it is a spiritual pursuit. And since artha and kam are valid pursuit of family life, they become the source of the economic activities as well. So, they have economic purpose as well. So, family is not just a biological unit, but it has a socio-psychological, emotional and spiritual aspects to it. Education institution are another type of institutions which can be looked at from the positive lens in the yogic tradition. How much education is considered important, and that conveys how important are educational institutions, that is reflected in this shloka of Manusmriti that says, Vittam bandhurvaya karma vidya bhavati panchami etani manyasthanani gariyo yad yadyutaram. Wealth, family means blood relations, age, that is vaya, karma, that is action, and vidya, that is learning and education, being the 5th, are the manyasthanani, award of respect. with increasing weightage respectively. Increasing weightage is given from wealth, family, age, action and knowledge. Knowledge and learning is considered to be the place of highest respect. Perhaps as a result of that, all the villages of India used to have pathshalas where some member of the community used to take the responsibility of teaching the kids in the family, and village used to take care of that person who would hold this responsibility. In the very famous book called A Beautiful Tree, author Dharmpalji quote Mahatma Gandhi in the very beginning of the book. This quote of Mahatma Gandhi is taken from his address in the Round Table Conference. In this quote, Mahatma Gandhi explained that according to the British survey itself, the British's conducted survey between 1815 to 1837 in all the 4 presidencies in which whole of India was divided, and the British survey suggested that on an average 95.9% people in India were literate. This was possible because all the villages had pathshalas. Means it's kind of a home schooling where the member of the community take the responsibility of teaching all the kids in the community. So there was a well oiled machinery working in the Indian society. With the advent of the British Empire, they brought the formal schooling concept, and because of that they made all other schools which did not have the prescribed format as prescribed in the British system, all other educational settings were considered illegal or invalid. And because of that, the whole pathshala system of the Indian society was disrupted, and the analogy to this pathshala system is a huge banyan tree, and this analogy was given by Mahatma Gandhi, and this was quoted in the book by Dharmpalji, and from this quote itself the title of the book emerges, A Beautiful Tree. So we can see that how Indian society valued and how the yogic tradition valued knowledge and learning, and how well the institutional system was prevailing to hold this knowledge and to perpetuate this knowledge. In another Yajnavalkya Smriti, it is said that gratefulness, free from enmity, intelligence, purity, free of mental and physical disease, not in the habit of fault finding, virtuous, strong and capable, family members, giver of knowledge and giver of wealth, these are the characteristics of a learner. Kritagya droho medhavi, shuchi kalyan shuyaka, adhyapya dharmatah sadhu, shaktapt gyan vittada. That is the characteristic of a member of the society, and objective of education is to make person with these qualities. So we can look at positive institutions in the form of family, and education institution is so very well conceptualized and implemented in the yogic tradition. Now we will look at both of these institutions in little more detail. First, let us look at family. Of all the ashram, this is considered the most important because it supports all other ashrams. It is said that like all creatures live supported by the air, the other ashrams exist supported by the grihastha. Like all the streams and rivers flow to rest in the ocean, all the ashrams flow to rest in the grihastha. And these shlokas are uttered by Shiva himself in one of the texts. If you want to know more about it, you can visit this website, which contains all the references which are being quoted here. Brahmachari grahasthascha vanaprastho yatistatha ete grahastha prabhashchatvarah prathagashrama. So it conveys this idea of grahastha being the source and the foundation and the support system of all other ashram. It also says yatha vayu samashrita vartante sarvajantava, as air take cares of all the creatures, tatha grahastham ashritya vartante sarva ashrama. In this way, grahastha ashram takes care of all the ashrams. So greatness of grahastha ashram is described in the conversation between Uma and Shankara himself, occurring in the Anushwasana Parv of Mahabharata. And Shankara begins his answer to Uma queries with the unequivocal assertion that of all the ashramas, this is the state of grahastha ashrama. So this is reflected, this is conveyed in this picture of fractal. Family is the unit of society. Family takes care of the society. Society and family are not in struggle with each other. Family is constituting unit of society, and in so many sanskars, including in all the sanskars, and all the sanskars, the role of family is established, and that ensures harmony in the family and responsible behavior of family to take care of the society. So towards the end of this session, what are the points of reflection and action? We looked at in this session sanskara and yajnas as the positive events. We look at in the form of both of these events that there is a great recognition of the connection or integration of micro and macro. Macro is sustained by micro, like family is sustained by a society, and micro is constituent of macro. So there is a mutuality in all social and human life forms. That recognition is there. Arising from this recognition is the value of responsibility. Responsibility is a very important value, because that is the basis on which we ensure that different members of the community and even whole ecosystem contribute to each other's growth. So value of responsibility, and yajnas and sanskaras are ways of developing a more integral consciousness, and that integral consciousness naturally result into responsible behavior. And third point of reflection is that different life events can be integral in nature. There are ways to create positive events which takes care of all major objectives of life, which are related to materialistic objective or hedonistic objective, hedonistic pleasure, eudaimonic pleasure, as well as transcendental or spiritual pleasure. So all three aspects of happiness and all three aspects of self can be integrated in the positive events, and these kind of positive events are described in great detail in the yogic tradition.